Hello there, good evening. Welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt. Pleasure to welcome you back to the channel once again for more Celtic chat, all things Celtic, and of course, a wee bit of a sliding doors situation last night where, results were looking a wee bit nip and tuck. We managed to dig one out of the bag, and of course, results elsewhere certainly went in our favour and made things look a lot better reading at the end of the night than it was perhaps, deep into the 90-minute mark for us. And I've got, of course, Stephen with me, Baldy brother number 2, who's going to be my right-hand man for this one this evening, and we'll get in about it. So before we kick off, as I always like to do, mate, it's nice to catch up with yourself, and I'm assuming there'll be a wee bit of relief there. There'll also be plenty of joy, and well, you'll take it, won't you, get into the weekend?
Absolutely. I don't know how many interviews I watch with Martin, and he just says, never mind what's happening elsewhere, we just need to get the job done. Every game that goes by, 3 points is the most important thing. And, that's it. We dug one out the bag, as you said last night. So that's it. On to the weekend. And, again, it's business as usual. We'll be expecting another 3 points.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk a wee bit about last night. Of course, there was plenty to like as well. I've got to say that, despite the fact that the fashion that we got there in the end, there was plenty to like, and I think it's fair to say that it was very much a case of not taking your chances. If we had converted, I know it's if and buts, it's all hypothetical, but that should have been something of a cricket score. And unfortunately, it wasn't, Stevie, but we'll talk through that, of course, and then we'll have a wee look, of course, at what happened elsewhere, and more importantly, look towards the weekend, because it's a massive weekend. And if we thought last night was a bit of a game changer in terms of the results, then getting to the weekend, well, it could all be changed again, and we could find ourselves in a surprisingly strong position. Yep. So thank you to yourself for joining me, and of course to everybody else out there as well. Welcome to the channel. As always, we say thanks for your continued support. If you've not done it already, it costs you nothing. Hit the subscribe button, get yourself updated, hit the notification icon, the wee bell, and every time we go live, every time we do an upload, you get told what's happening, and get one of them, the big fat thumbs up if you like it. There's plenty of filtering in the chat, and we appreciate it. Let us know your thoughts on it. Let us know your thoughts in general. Players, anything you want to talk about, we'll try and work through this one together. Just say, we get the elephant in the room, bit of a temporary situation here, as you'll see. I'm downstairs, I'm in the comfy seats, and of course last night we didn't get a programme on either, as I found myself back in the hospital, but I'm out now and I'm good, so we're ready to go, and we will make the best of it. So let's get in about it, let's get down to business, as we say. We sat here and we spoke about it, me, you and Paddy, and we sort of looked at this game and we thought, right, okay. We looked at the game prior to this one. We says 2 games: game against Dundee, game against Livingston. An opportunity to get a wee bit of confidence building, get some of these new guys out there, get some minutes in the legs, breed confidence in them, score a couple of goals, set ourselves up. And then we even we looked at the game at the weekend that we've got coming up as well, and went, it's a decent run of 3 before we start getting into the sort of nitty-gritty, before we start looking at Rangers, before we start looking at Stuttgart. And Dundee didn't quite pass over that way. We made hard work of it, and we maybe made hard work of this one as well. But in terms of the lineup, not so much was changed, thankfully, and it was good to see the reintroduction of Arne Engels. We'll obviously mention what happened there with him, and more importantly, Sirachi. It was a strong starting team. I liked what I saw there, and I've got to say, just straight off the bat, in terms of Sirachi, oh mate, between him and Araujo, you always say don't fall in love with lone players, but if there's anything, mate, that can be done to keep any of the 2 guys, we've got to go and do it, mate. Fantastic players.
Yep. Both very, very attacking, both very, very solid when required to defend. So yes, absolutely. These, I think, are probably 2 of the kind of gems. We didn't really have very much to cheer for in the transfer window, either during the summer or the January window there. But definitely, these 2 have come in, above and beyond expectations, I would say. Bearing in mind that you were expecting Alistair Johnson before he got injured, and Kieran Tierney were going to be, the kind of mainstays in the team, and it was just these two guys were there to provide backup. They've come in, they've both done excellently well, particularly Arojo. I'm really impressed with how he gets involved in an attacking sense. But yeah, last night's first goal down to Sarachi, a really good kind of shot. One of these ones where it could have been heading for Rosed, but really good contact on it, and it was going to take something special to beat the Livi keeper at that point. He pulled off three pretty
frustratingly good, mate.
Saves. Yeah, up to that point, we could have been, well out of sight in the first 20 minutes. But going back to your point, definitely Arojo and Sarachi, definitely 10 out of 10 for both of them last night.
Yeah, definitely. And on Sarachi, I'm sure he'll probably be watching either live or at some point. A wee shout out to my mate Georgie, who actually texts me and he says, when the lineup came out, he sent it and he says, Sarachi to score tonight. Ooh. And I ain't gonna lie, I half laughed at it and went, all right, no worries. There we go. I wish I'd actually took him up on it, because I was informed that you were getting anywhere between, if you're a betting person, gamble responsibly, you were getting anywhere for as low as 61 up to about 10s on him to score, and he goes and does it. So there you go, that's it. But a wee shout out to Georgie for that one. He was bang on the money. But look, talking about coming back to the game, I just want to bring up, let's get up, and I'll do it, everybody's favourite website, the BBC. Yes! I know you were getting set and fire for that. No, jokes aside, I'm bringing it up because I want to bring up the stats. We spoke about it, you have probably all watched various other excellent podcasts between now and then. Andrew will have mentioned it, but let's just take a look at it. We said what it could have been, mate. Look at this. It's as comprehensive a performance as you're going to get in terms of the output, the possession, the shots, the amount of target, the touches in the box. Everything is just pointing towards what we already knew, which is we should have swept them aside with absolutely no bother. And it's a kind of funny one, because I've seen some of the commentary and the opinions on this, and rightfully so, is that, as it says here, the style of play might be questionable and unconvincing, but we've just got to win. And I feel I wouldn't necessarily say that the game it certainly wasn't boring from that perspective. No. It wasn't an unenjoyable grind. It was more frustration. And again, maybe it's wishful thinking, but you've got to say to yourself, at one point, this is going to click. Because for every game that we've had a genuine, dogfight, and we've just dragged ourselves over the line, we've had games like this where you're like, we should be, 4-5 up. And again, I even go back to the Wilfred Nancy situation against Rangers, where you're like, we should be out of sight. So I think that if somebody's going to get a tank in at some point between now and the end of the season, I reckon, mate.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you look at the type of chances we created. There was an excellent early ball in from Maeda that Kvanchara, the width of a toe, he could have got a wee bit more on it. There was the shot. I can't remember who took the shot, but the Livi keeper saved it. It came to Maeda for the header.
That's the Negrin one, yeah.
And the Livi defender just threw himself at it, again on the line. So yeah, the type of chances that we created in that first 20 minutes. There was an excellent through ball from Kalmak as well.
That's another one Finchara gets on. But
yeah, really good touch to kind of kill the ball into his path. Now at that point, he's setting himself up for, a one-on-one with the keeper. Luckily enough, the keeper goes the right way and smothers it. But yeah, you want to see your guys attack in different styles. You don't want them to be doing, the same over and over and over again, because it's easier to defend. But all those different types of attacking moves. Very good, very fluid. And as you say, as these guys, get more games under their belt playing as that unit, absolutely, I can see us, starting to build those scores.
In terms of obviously the side, we've covered the side that was, we're getting Engels back in. Obviously, we get I'm coming off, and Hatate comes on. He's getting pelters there. We'll get on to him as well. But as I said, it's great to have the options that we've got now. With Sarashi come back in, that one for me is massive. Benjamin Nigren again, he looks lively. Unlucky not to score. I must admit, I thought that, in terms of Maeda, it was a slightly better performance for him. And as people are mentioning as well, Taneke following up that sort of great 25-minute period that he had against Dundee, where he was instrumental in that. Again, kicking on and looking at it. We just hope that it continues on. It's good having these wee spots, but it is important for everybody to be kicking on there and making things happen. On the wingers, one that was missing entirely from the squad was Mufka. And obviously we then saw the quote from Martin Neill, in short, just paraphrasing, saying, guys get good qualities, doing what he's doing. He had a stinker of a debut. I took him off because it was more tactical. He's kind of doing the right thing, He was protecting the player, but there was also a wee bit of a shit sandwich in there, reflecting on his personal experiences, not quite working for you, and about how you pick yourself up. I must admit, I was quite surprised with that. A lot of people have jumped on it to do the wee bit of confirmation bias to go, see, can't even get in the squad. Absolute dog shit. 45 minutes, he's written off. I'm not taking it as that, but at the same time, I would have liked to have seen him, at least in the squad. Removing some people can maybe protect him, but if you're talking about building a guy's confidence and getting him going, again, a game against Livi at home, I'm surprised he wasn't involved, mate.
Yeah, I do get that in terms of, it can work either way in terms of how his confidence is. He gets in there. As you say, it had I would describe it as a kind of fairly lackluster debut. I think Martin will definitely, he'll probably put Sean on the case, actually, because Sean's obviously played as a kind of wide player during his career. So I think there'll be a lot of coaching with Sean. Obviously, you've got Jamesy Forrest there as well. You've got Yang. Yeah, I mean, as Lauren says there, it is too early to make a decision on him. I think it's just give him a chance of, some extra coaching sessions to see how we play. Now, the guy, the team he came from, they might be a team that kind of play the ball in early. He runs up the wing if he's reasonably fast, and then he tries to do whatever. Here, we might try and build it up a wee bit slower, or expect him to take somebody onto the byline or do whatever. So I mean, it's going to be one that I think you'll start to see him get some more minutes as we get into, because we've got a glut of games. And it will be important to try and manage the squad. So yes, I do expect to see him, but I think there will be a kind of wee word in his ear from the coaching staff as to 100%. Our style of play and how he fits into that.
Yeah, we're going to need these guys. The squad's going to be massive as well. And another one as well that's been mentioned here, Sugarman's mentioned it, is Kelechi Iheanacho. The lesser seen again. I'm hoping that there's nothing actually wrong with him. We're just sort of biding our time to feeding him back in. But we talk about, as it says there on the tagline, referring to Oxlade-Chamberlain, that's what quality gets you, and that's what we need. We need as many of these guys. We look at getting Sarachi back, the quality. You see the difference that makes. If we get Iheanacho, we know the qualities that he's got and he's shown in the periods that he's been fit and available. So we need to have all these guys in. So 100%, I think that's massive for us. But let's get back to, obviously, the action. As you say, look, take your pick from those opening exchanges. Celtic were all over it. I can think just off the top. There's that first one, which is a glorious one. As you say, Kalmak plays through over the top. It's Vinchara. Good back control. The defender is closing. I think it's. I'll be honest. I think it's a sitter. I really think he's got to put that one away. I think he's got to lift it, put it right through, his foot right through it and over the top of the keeper. But it is a decent start. And then, of course, we have a similar one for a similar position. It's Taneke. Again, Taneke had a good game. He's contributed well. One thing that I've criticised him off is taking his chances. Yeah. And again, I think he's maybe a bit gilt-edged on our one, flashes across, and he's got to score. But that seemed to be the situation was we were getting these really good clean chances. You mentioned the one Negrin end for's a good save, and then it's Maeda misses up with the header. No, defender chucks himself in front of you.
Yeah.
But we really should have been more clinical. And again, just as a word of caution, trying to not be negative, but just trying to be realistic. We play Rangers best by around the corner at the end of the start of the month coming up. Stuttgart, you get those chances against better opposition. You need to take them because you will be punished.
Yeah. I sent you a text probably about 20 minutes into the game to say just give the Livi keeper the man of the match now, because on another day those chances would have found the back of the net, I think. As the rest of the game panned out, when you don't take your chances, then that is when, again, psychologically, you're kind of, the crowd quietens down, the players, they see the effort they're putting in, and it just doesn't quite fit for you. But, again, they kept at it. Got to half time, and it was a case of trying to play a wee bit kind of different in the second half. We let Livi back into it. I think the penalty we gave away was poor.
It was sorry to jump in, but bear in mind they had a great chance in that first half. Casper Schmeichel again coming good save.
Yeah. So you knew they were never really that far out of the game. At 1-0, anything can happen, and sure enough, the penalty was, an absolutely stonewaller. No complaints about the penalty being given. I personally thought Rio should have jumped and tried to head the ball away rather than take the big swing, because the guy coming through the back of him, and if you watch the highlights, Rio has a look before that ball comes across, so he knows the big boy is behind him. So when the ball is coming down and he takes the swing at it, I thought, just jump at it, try and get a header on it, just get yourself between the big lad and the ball, because if he hits you, that's an easy foul.
Contact's contact.
Yep. Yeah, of course it is. Absolutely. As I say, if that had been the other way about, we would all have been screaming, penalty.
Absolutely.
So can't really complain. It was an absolute stonewaller.
It was stupidity.
In that one.
No, stupidity and making it hard for ourselves, definitely. And obviously, you mentioned Rio, and we've jumped up to there. So first half, I think that I was a wee bit slightly concerned about. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I was concerned that we weren't taking chances, and I've seen the story pan out before. And ultimately, as you say, it did. There was a sting in the tail. There was a penalty, and it dragged on. You're like, fucking typical. We've had enough chances to win this game 3 times over. If we're going to end up potentially cruising to a draw, results elsewhere at the time, making things worse for us. But no, we mentioned Hatate coming on. Now, the loss of Engels is undoubtedly disappointing. Hopefully, there's nothing serious in that. I've yet to hear anything. I don't know if you have, or anyone in the comments has heard anything in terms of the implications, but it's a forced change early on. It's no ideal. And Hatate, we're not going to sit here and slate him. I think that I'm with you. The penalty's horrendous. There's stupidity at the highest order. There's no need for the way he does it. And it's, what are you doing, mate? What are you doing? I'm seeing a lot of people are still unhappy, and we've taken the penalty out of the equation aside from it. I just feel it was another performance by Hatate where you're going, there is definitely better options to be had than Hatate at this moment in time. The drop-off was so notable, mate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Again, when Engels was on the park, we were moving it much quicker. We were getting it quicker. Yeah. It was one of those. What word should I use here? Yeah, we were definitely moving it into more attacking areas quicker. Whereas, when Rio came on, I just felt that the pace of the game, the tempo in general dropped. I'm not saying he wasn't involved. He got himself into a couple of good positions. Again, one where he made a run down the left. Again, got a very quick ball in. And again, it wasn't that far away from Kvanchara, just, getting a toe to put it into the back of the net. But yeah, Rio is not the same player that he was this time last year. I think his head has totally gone, and it's kind of sad to see, really. I was a big fan of him. The same way with Dyson, absolutely love Dyson, but he's just a kind of running about guy now. It's just a jersey that's on the move all the time, but not really, into the areas that he was getting himself into last year.
See, with the likes of Hatate, I just want to talk about Hatate and Maeda and sort of sandwich the two of them together, because they are diminishing returns. I do agree, sometimes Maeda will have moments where he looks up for it. Hatate has shown little to none. I thought, actually, funnily enough, his best performance recently was against Bologna. I thought, despite him getting sent off, I thought he actually looked really quite good. And he's never shown a glimpse of that again since then. But what do you think the situation is, just to talk about these guys? There is potential that Hatate could move on. We know that the sort of Brazilian transfer window, I think, goes on to March. So that's something that's been touted. Whether it happens or not, who knows? Do you think with these guys, you're saying about heads being turned and things like that, is it as simple as that, or do you think that they're just phoning it in, dialing it in, with the commitment and the effort levels are maybe less because they know that they're leaving, they know that there's a handful of games. I know that it's well over 10 games still to go, and it's massive, but it's a case of maybe don't get injured because I'll just get a move at the end of the season. Could it be something as simple as that?
It absolutely could be. You've also got to bear in mind that really the two of them should be pretty hopeful of making the Japan squad for the World Cup. Now, they're not convincing a national coach based on their performances this season. If you're the coach of Japan thinking, right, I'm looking at my kind of strongest 11, I don't think neither of them will feature in his plans based on what he's seen this season at all. So yes, whether there's a move afoot, I know there was a talk about Maeda was supposed to go in the summer and a move was promised, but then because they didn't get a kind of replacement in, then he wasn't allowed to go. Possibly the same with Maeda. He's been told soon as we get a potential replacement in for you, then that's you, cheery bye. But you can just tell mentally they don't seem to be giving it. Yeah, there's just something that's just not quite clicking. What that is, I don't think you can. It's not down to one particular thing. I think that's the thing. I think there's a couple of factors at play here. As I say, whether it's the thought of a move, the thought of getting injured, the thought of are they going to make the Japan squad or whatever. All these sort of things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with some of the guys in the chat here. I don't think any of them have any chance a Japan squad. Real Hatate can forget
certainly
about
not a first 11 place anyway. I think because of the size of the squad that they'll be included in the squad, but how much game time? That's the thing.
Well, in terms of the obviously game, we were talking about the quality, and the first half was frustrating. much of the same throughout the second. I think that I'm starting to get concerned. There's a lot of questions, and I just want your thoughts on them. Big Tam, as he's getting called, Finchara. A lot of people are giving mixed reactions to him in the chat. Now, he obviously had quite a decent start where he's had an assist, he's had a goal. We've seen a couple of outings off him now, and we've learned a wee bit more about him. Seems at this moment in time, he's certainly going to be the starter.
Yep.
He's going to be the guy that's going to be the sort of figurehead through the middle. Obviously, we got Adamu. He comes on again. Plenty of energy. I didn't necessarily think he contributed too much. So I would maybe looking perhaps at the game of the weekend or something like that, maybe think about switching the two around, give him the start and see how that works. But what's your thoughts on Tunchara? There is qualities there. There is... he's got a decent turn of pace. I still think he's trying. We see quite a lot of this where he's trying to bring the ball in.
Yeah.
And he's still, it's hit or miss. He's never going to be this big, strong guy who holds up the ball very well. A lot of people are basically saying they're not convinced with him so far. They certainly don't think that he's going to be £7 million worth. And a wee bit of sort of general criticism with maybe, as a striker, the chance missed and getting into the right positions, but not looking convincing. Is that maybe unfair at this, even a couple of games in? Is this unfair, or have you any concerns around him pushing us on and producing the goods?
No, I think he's got the potential. I've seen enough of him that I think, every striker, every goal they score adds that wee bit of extra confidence to their game. And I think once he starts scoring, and I think he will, then he'll go on a wee run. He'll be like Yang. He'll get a couple of games where he's very involved. He'll make chances, and he'll put the ball in the back of the net. I'm pretty certain he will. Adamu, when he came on, I think probably wasn't his fault, but by that time, Livi were kind of defending a lot deeper than they were. So there was kind of different service into Adamu than there was in the early parts, as I say, when Kwanchar had the kind of 1-on-1 with the keeper and stuff like that. Jan Vennegoor, is that a kind of fair assessment? I mean, see, to be honest, in terms of how he uses his body, he reminds me a wee bit of Chris Sutton, although don't get me wrong, he's nowhere near the quality of Chris Sutton.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there was balls coming into him, and he's got his arms out, to hold the defender off. He knows how to use his body. When he is goal side and running towards, the goal, he's not outpacing anybody, put it that way, but he's getting his shot away and he's getting his shots on target. If the shots weren't going on target, if he was sclaffing them or whatever, it would be different. But I think he's collecting free kicks and that's fine. I don't mind that. If he's got somebody, if we played a kind of two up front, if you like, if we played Kwanchar and Adamu together.
Do you think that's the answer then, to get the most out of him?
Well, maybe not to get the most out of them. I think, though, look at the run of games we got. I think there might be a case at some point where Martin decides to play a kind of more traditional 4-4-2 just because of the squad rotation, not because he's a fan of that system, but I think there might be cases where he'll say, no, I'm going to go with two, I'm going to be, play four in the middle, how he kind of things that about. I think there's going to be squad management in the games that we've got, because you're looking at was somebody came up with a stat last night when I was listening to the commentary, and it's something like 10 games we've got between now and the end of March. So that is a lot of fixtures.
Yeah, a lot of
so as I say, it might come down to squad management and how Martin sees, utilising his players or resting certain players and whatever. But yeah, I'm not going to give up on either of the two strikers. I would love to have, somebody who's really, really clinical, but it is what it is. We need to make the best of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about the big man, I can understand maybe where Brown's going with the Jan Vinegar, and like makes a joke off muscle,
Yeah,
but the qualities are different. I think that when I reflect back on Jan Vinegar or Hesselink, I think he was a player who, again, I hate the term, but the idea of him being an enigma. He wasn't a heavy free scoring, striker. He had a decent return for it.
yeah,
But there would be many games that you felt maybe just passed him by. A wee bit like Finchara, where he feels like he's trying to do the right things, but it doesn't come off. But then he'll go on and he'll score a clutch of goals here and there. And I think I can see that being the case. In terms of what folk are saying, and I agree, 7 million, I don't think so. The only way
no,
that Celtic ever pay 7 million for him is if he goes on a, dare I say it, and we know what our thoughts were on him, and Adam Ida-esque run where between now and the end of the season, he fires another 7-8 goals. I don't see that happening, I will
yeah,
be honest. But I think that's when you start to have that debate. But we'll see how it pans out. I do see enough in him in terms of there's potential there. But like I said when I had the concerns about the guys that were brought in, we are still hoping for all these guys to turn the corner and suddenly click and all to happen. And I think the return, as you say, and some people are suggesting, maybe a more traditional 4-4-2 might actually work because, and they'll say, well, what the fuck is he, Steve? He doesn't strike me as being a target man, lone striker type, right?
no.
He just doesn't strike me as that. And I think maybe that maybe little and large. I mean, not that Adamu's a wee short guy or anything,
No,
but
no.
you know what I'm saying?
He
Different
he
sort
he
of.
he'll run off the
Right.
knockdowns.
Exactly. I think somebody to work alongside might make it get him more into the game
Yeah,
because at this moment in time, we're playing the ball into him. He doesn't have that proper, hearts and Sutton. He's got the Sutton qualities in terms of he's getting fouled all the time, and I'll take that
yeah,
gladly. But he's not going to roll somebody with his body and get away or the
no,
likes of Hartson. But if he's got somebody to pick up the ball off him, to allow him to move, he'll get it. Because I think we're being quite one-dimensional with the way that we're trying to approach him. We're just firing into his feet, hoping he can turn, or we're trying to cross the ball over and see if he can maybe get on the end of it. So maybe a dynamic where he's working alongside somebody could actually work for us.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
hopefully that's something that we can look to do. Start it off with Kilmarnock, why not? There's
Yeah.
nothing to be lost at this moment in time. Experiment a wee bit, mate.
No, because again, it depends how teams set up against us. We knew going into last night's game, so you had Livi bottom of the table, new manager bounce as we mentioned on the last cast. They were very defensively minded, so I was actually quite surprised that we created the early chances, the space we were getting at their defensive line. I thought they would have been, really kind of park the bus type thing. But yeah, as I say, we'll come up against teams who are maybe a wee bit more open. We'll try and push up, or maybe control a midfield rather than sitting back. So there's plenty of scope for trying a 4-4-2.
It's a good
Depending on,
option as well, mate.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. Sarachi in midfield, absolutely, he's got the engine. When you need that bit of dig, I don't see why not. Going back to the Engels thing you asked earlier, sorry, I meant to actually answer that. So on the two commentaries or the two kind of post-match interviews that I've seen from Martin, at that point he hadn't spoken to any of the medical staff. He did say when Engels came off, it was kind of, you could see him rubbing his thigh. So whether it was a tear or whether it could be, but I don't think there's been any kind of official word at the moment to say just what kind of injury he's got and how long he's expected to be out. But yeah, Sarachi in the middle, I don't see that being too big an issue. I mean, he's very attack minded as we've said, so he could certainly handle playing in there.
And that's certainly, as you're saying, options. Now, obviously, we don't want to go crazy and go wholesale, but it is good to have these potential fallbacks. And there'll be certain games, and even in play, shuffling the pack and changing it around where it could work. A lot of people are saying as well, we're talking about this idea too up front. And as Brown's saying, he'd go more with that 4-4-1-1. So you play somebody in behind Nygren in that sort of 10, just in as a sort of pseudo secondary striker. One thing about him, he always gets in the right position. We say that he's not blessed with, he's never going to get in dirty and win the ball. He's not going to be blistering speed, but you know what? He picks up the right positions. One thing I'd say about Nygren is his football IQ, his football intelligence is extremely high. His athleticism is lacking, but it's all up here. And that's something that we certainly need to use to our full advantage, definitely. But there is options there. Sriracha gives us a good option. Again, if we want to say, depending on how things are going, Tanecki has played well the past 2 outings, picked up well again yesterday. But again, just using it as an option, potentially instead of having to fall back and bringing on, James Forrest or something if Tanecki's coming off. If Sriracha's on the bench, bring him on, use him as a winger. In front of Kieran Tierney, these things can definitely work.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing I would say, kind of in terms of last night, is I thought Tanecki actually played better on the left. I thought he was more involved and he was getting kind of better quality into the area from when he moved across to the left hand side. So again, you're talking about your boy Mvuka. Jamesy come on. You know what he's going to give you on the right. There's no worries there. He'll get himself about the pitch. But yeah, Tanecki, for me, definitely did more on the left hand side last night than he did early doors on the right.
Yeah, definitely. But see, at the end of the day, mate, we get there, we get the result, and that's what matters. Let's talk about it, because we said there it's about quality. And it's 2 pieces of quality for us in terms of our goals. The first one for Sriracha is an absolute belter. Right out in that edge of the box and smashes it home. Great goal. And I can see that. I can understand why my mate George had mentioned me and says, you likely a goal. I think he's going to be the kind of guy that could, contribute with a few goals. But we get Oxlade-Chamberlain. We're waiting for it. Everybody was, bated breath, waiting to see how long he'd get on. It comes on at the sort of sweet spot for us. It's exactly when we need him to come on. Obviously, we're kind of lacking a wee bit in the options anyway, but he gets himself on. And as I say, it literally is so cliche, but that is where the quality gets you. We're sitting there, we've got this Araujo that makes way for him. We're nearly 80 minutes. It's not quite looks as if it's coming off. I think these contributions up until he scores a goal. It didn't do anything amazing, didn't do anything bad, but you could see that, again, getting the right positions, looking for the ball, making himself available. But when it matters, at the crunch moment, when we're sitting 91, 92 minutes on the clock, edge of the box, a crowded box, everybody and their grannies in the box, defending for their life, he's no flustered. Nope. He could swipe at that, he could play a stupid pass to somebody that's no on, one touch, turn, caresses the ball to the far corner. And in fact, he's that confident in where it's going. He's celebrating. He's turning away before it's hit the net, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as you say, somebody that's less experienced or a wee bit more nervous coming on because they're, they're making their kind of debut. They lash at that. And same with the Sriracha one. It could have went rose ed, but as you say. He sees where the space is to put the shot, and that's it. He's not just going for pure power. He's putting his foot round it to get that beautiful curve. And yeah, I mean, it's literally, as soon as it leaves his foot, even Martin said that himself. He says, I had a great view behind it. He says, I'm just watching it curve in, and that was it. So absolutely, totally. An example of the kind of quality that you're going to get from him. And again, minutes on the park is going to bring that up. We'll see more of the Ox, I'm sure, including more goals.
Well, I think we're now at the stage where we're going to need him. You know, as I say, I would definitely say, again, he'll be confident after that game and that goal there. Of course he will. He'll be eager to want to play. I don't think there's a necessity to start him. Again, I'll always say I know it's different injuries and there's different risk factors. I'm not wanting to play him on that shitey park. I'll say it right now.
No, Kilmarnock,
I think you have that chat with him. We know you want it. If we need it, we'll bring you on. But bear in mind, you might have played in some bad surfaces in your time, mate. But this is a new level shite, so we're not putting you on it. But yeah, I definitely think that it's the level of quality we need, and it's unfortunate the timing that he didn't make that European squad because, again, the quality, the levels up. It would have been nice to have that at your disposal for that kind of game.
Yeah, 100%. You know, again, that kind of calming influence in the middle. I'm just trying to wonder. I wonder what's going through his head. You know, he's not played in. Is it something like almost a full calendar year?
I think his last game was June 2025 or something like that. May or June 2025.
You imagine, coming on. Training, as any footballer will know, is totally different to being involved in a match. So, it kind of, I watched his interview, and he said, watching, he could see where the spaces were on the park, and thinking, right, I can go in there and, make myself a kind of nuisance in those spaces in the park. That again is experience. I'm quite sure, as soon as the ball came to me, he thought, I can get this shot away. But 13 minutes of play after having not played for a year, I would really like to kind of sit him down and say, just explain that wee part of it. What spark there? Thinking I haven't played in a year. Really as the career over, and then comes on, scores the goal. Again, it's like nobody can write that sort of script, can they?
Oh no, it's literally the dream debut. The dream debut. As I said, for the short period that he was on, we know that he's not up to full match fitness. There was nothing. He didn't look like a guy who was labouring. Now we've got to remember as well, he's typically a kind of box to box type midfielder. He's obviously can also be utilised out wide. We've seen him there as well, so there is options. But I think that the position that he's in and the type of player that he's in. He's one of these guys that, see, because of his experience and the level he's played at and the quality he's got, he will make things look quite easy. Dare I say it? Remember Aaron Moy, right? Aaron Moy looked like he'd done things in slow motion because he was just that easy and he was that seasoned. And I actually think that's what you'll get out of him. He'll still cover the ground. He'll still put in the effort that's required. But I reckon he'll do it with an element of sort of, finesse. Suppers, he'll cruise about the pitch, and I've no concerns about being fit, because if he's a striker and needs to make gut busting runs, I can understand he's not ready. But I reckon he's one of these guys, as we saw there, he'll find the space and his movement and his positioning will make up for maybe that half a yard, the pace or whatever that he doesn't have at the moment.
Well. Compare him with Jamesy Forrest, okay? The way Jamesy plays now compared to the way Jamesy played, when he was the other side of 30, Jamesy's legs would get him into a lot of places, when he was younger, and he would get himself into areas and get shots away. He's maybe not got the same pace now, but everything Jamesy does is up here now. He knows where the best place for him to be to influence a game, whether that's a pass, whether that's, taking somebody away from another teammate, whether it's, getting himself into the box to then, make himself an option for a shot and goal or whatever. As you say, that's what experienced players learn over the course of the year, once they start to kind of lose that yard of pace. So, as you say, Ox will definitely get himself, he'll be about the place, he'll make himself busy. Every now and again, he will do that thing that just only he can do. A younger, more experienced player, less experienced player, sorry, just won't see what Ox is seeing and thinking, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this. So, you know, that's the sort of thing, you know, again, if you watch his interview, he said it himself, you know, as soon as you're a footballer, as soon as you get to that kind of 30 barrier, then you've got to kind of think about your game a wee bit more. And in terms of, you know, what you can still do to contribute. And so, no, absolutely no doubts, you know, there exactly. You know, it's all up here. He knows I need to be in a certain position because the ball's going to get to me. I'm not going to go chasing that ball because I've not got the pace to do it anymore. But you know, all about mentality. You know, somebody from Ox, and that's where we'll get the best for him.
The one thing that I do hope, though, that is that everybody learns and catches up from, because there was once or twice, it's not a criticism, it's just an observation, once or twice where he was doing things and the likes of a Taneki that were just in that youthful head down tunnel vision and not seeing the positions he was taking up or not on the same wavelength of him. That'll come with playing alongside these guys. But you know, that's it's crazy to think, and I reckon, you know, it's not to talk ill of our team. Even a couple of games when he's bedding in, he'll redial and think, right, I need to bring these guys up, because he'll notice that there'll be a drop off in the level of he's playing alongside. Maybe not the likes of your Cal McGregor or others in the team, but there will be certain ones where, particularly that I'm looking more at the younger guys, like, you know, a Yang, or looking at Taneki, that are a wee bit sort of more just tunnel vision and still learning their craft as such, that they might be a wee bit behind what his thinking is. But no, it'll be good. And it was a good point that was made there, and it'll be interesting to see if it happens. If the Engels thing is a kind of longer injury, there might be a potential where he could be rotated out and also Chamberlain put in for the European squad. That's worth keeping an eye on. I don't know specifically, but it was mentioned. I know that we were able to do that before, and I think that, I know that it's only one fixture, 2 legs, but usually I think it's dependent on the length of the injury. If it's quite lengthy and you're like, that guy's never come back, there's no chance of making it, then you can sometimes get that. So I'll be interested to see if that happens. But I would definitely take him. But anyway, just to sort of finish up and bring things round, we get the points, we get there in the end, is all that really matters. We grind it out. Points on the board is all that matters. And of course, there's another good news story as well, because the much maligned Stevie Welsh gives us a big gift. You know, he gives us a big gift by not just stinking the place out at Celtic, but he gives us an even better gift by turning up against the baddies and whipping one home. And there you go. It was looking like we were going to be dropping points, they were going to be ahead, we're going to be 2 points behind them, further in it. And I'll be honest with you, there was the bit in the back of my mind went, this is a tough task that could be almost made impossible if this result finished this way. But in a sliding doors moment, Welsh turns up, puts it away. The 10-man Livingston I'll be honest, get their worth. I watched that game back, and they were worth the draw. They probably could have and should have got something more out of that as well. But it's fun to see. It's fun to see, mate. We get a result for ourselves. We get a result elsewhere in the league. It changes the perception, changes the sort of landscape of things. And, of course, we get the glory of Rangers fans all moaning about terrible refereeing and all that kind of stuff. But I'm pretty sure that Motherwell could potentially have had 2 penalties in that game and all, mate.
Well, if you're on the internet, folks, not on that BBC website, right? But if you go onto YouTube, you'll get the post-match reaction from James McFadden and Chris Boyd, and that kind of gives you more of a kind of round of how the game went. You know, certainly both of them. You know, the highlights package showed a good header that was saved, but it was the way Welsh finished it. I mean, that's a kind of finish that a striker would have been proud of, because again, the ball comes across. He could have lashed that anywhere, but he's got the presence of mind to get the ball down to kind of skid off the ground, and at that point it's going away from Butland. You know, so again, look at YouTube, get the post-match interview with James McFadden, and and Chris Boyd, and that'll brighten your evening up even further.
Well, here is, in case you've not been aware, there is obviously the way things pan out. Certain variables here, as we well know, the goal difference thing is, we need to. That's why last night, again, not going to complain. It's all about the points. It's all about the points, the most important thing. But the goal difference, that would have been a good chance to get some goals under our belt, and we'll take the points, but missed the opportunity to make up for it there. As you can obviously see, we're even on points there. We're even on points with Motherwell. Games played with Motherwell. 1 point behind Rangers, but we do have that game in hand against Aberdeen. So that could obviously kick us ahead by 2 should we win that. And as you can see, there's the 6 between us and Hearts, but with the game in hand. With Hearts and Rangers playing each other at the weekend, I'll be honest, I turned around and I said on the last show we done, I said, if Rangers were to drop points in just one game, I would rather it was the game against Hearts, because obviously I'd rather Hearts to stay above Rangers for obvious reasons. I think that if Rangers got their noses in front, got level on points at the top or whatever, that some of the stuff that we've seen, the dark arts would be ramped up a wee bit. Call me, tinfoil hat all you want. I don't care. I think it's a hard fact, because even the likes of Hearts, who people say anybody but Celtic, Hearts have been on the end of a couple of minging decisions. I think they've lost a man in 3 games and the likes and stuff like that as well. Exactly. But I think looking at the game at the weekend, for me, obviously, if I was to pick a winner, I would probably rather it was Hearts, and then we maintain, assuming we win in our game in hand, the 3 points behind them, because then we play them totally in our own hand. But at the same time, a draw, as long as Rangers do not win the game, either or is going to work for me, mate.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I think I'm not at the stage. There's still too many games to go where I'm not going to worry about what other teams are doing at the minute. All I'm focusing on is us keeping our run going. Kilmarnock will not be an easy game on the plastic pitch. So again, 3 points and back up the road, boys, and that'll do us fine. I'm not going to be sitting on my couch and biting my nails to see what the result is, with Rangers and Hearts. There's still 12 games to go, so plenty of room to either for Hearts or Rangers to drop unexpected points.
Mate, we kick off early. Yeah, we kick off early as well, so we put a bit of pressure on them.
As long as we get the win, and just make sure that they know that we're right at their shoulder. As I say, I said on one of the previous casts, I don't think any of the top 4 will go the remaining 12 games or however many you've got. I don't think any of those 4 teams will go undefeated. I think they will drop points somewhere along the line, especially once it gets into the kind of the split, and we're now starting to nip points off each other. But it's all good, yeah. Get down to Kilmarnock, 3 points. I don't care if it's a scrappy 1-0. I would obviously be happy to take a few goals off them, just to eat into that goal difference. But say, points on the board, 3 points up the road, boys, and that'll do me fine.
So just to finish up on that, obviously we go there, be a 2 o'clock kick-off, we're nice and early, we're on the horrendous pitch, all the other variables that you know. It's a good opportunity though, because as I say, if we win that game at 2 o'clock, then obviously in terms of where that'll leave us with the table, we would obviously temporarily leapfrog Rangers, which puts them under a wee bit of pressure as well. Hearts, you'll see that we've won, puts pressure on both those sides, massive. Do you have any concerns going into this game now? We know that, let's be honest, right, Kilmarnock are absolutely guff, right? But they'll be confident based on last night. They were 1-0 down, and then they go back and they got a bit of fight. And also, dare I say it, I watched the highlights of their game against Rangers at Ibrox, and yeah, they get scudded in the end. They folded like a house of cards, but they were in it. Probably in the first half, they should have went in even. And also on top of the sending off that they got, Rangers should have been down to a 10-man as well. So despite the way that they collapsed at the end, I think that was just the nature of the beast and how results went everywhere, and it all aligned for Rangers, unfortunately. They had played actually quite decent that game.
Yeah.
And then they'll be buoyed with that result at the end. Is there still an element of danger of them at the weekend for you?
Oh, there's always an element of danger. That's the thing. I mean, I watched, I just watched the highlights package of the Kilmarnock game, just because there was so many goals in it. And the boy that scored the Kilmarnock goals, was it John Jules? I think his name was. All really good goals that he scored. So we're not quality enough at the minute to discount any team that we come up against. On paper, you would have said we should have blown Livingston away last night. We're at home. They're the bottom of the table. They're on a horrendous run. It didn't pan out like that. So we just need to watch and make sure that we do our business. As I say, I don't care if it finishes 1-0. That a win is all that matters. Just avoid us dropping unexpected points. Keep the momentum going. Keep the pressure going, and then what will be will be.
Yeah, I'm sure that we'll be more up for that one as well, season, and it'll be good. I think that there was a couple of variables in the results through the week that obviously will, undoubtedly help out. I did say, and folk didn't like it, I says I would rather that Hearts did, if they were going to get the win against Hibs. I obviously would rather see on a normal day Hibs to win, but as I says, I think it's important for Hearts to have that buffer ahead of Rangers. I'm confident that we can catch up and overtake them. I've not got a problem with it, but I would rather that Hearts were still in the equation to deny Rangers and keep them at bay. And also as well, let's be totally honest here, if Hearts were to have dropped points, either a loss or a draw, it probably bust their ball for going to Ibrox and having any level of confidence, and I think that probably comes a formality. So they'll have the confidence for that. Rangers going down with the draw there, that maybe knocks a wee bit of the wind out their sails as well. I've seen a lot of, as you'd imagine, it's amazing how fickle fans can be, a lot of disgruntled bears out there, turning like that on the players and the manager and that performance. So that can eat its way into it as well. So the results worked well in Celtic's favour. Looking at that other game, we can only take care of ourselves, but we also have got to be mindful of what's happening there. And I think that the results for those two teams, it plays into the favour of confidence for Hearts and maybe a bit of doubt for Rangers. But for ourselves, it puts the wind in our sails because it gives us a chance to get ahead, leapfrog, put on a bit of pressure. And a game against Kilmarnock, it is what it is, but you'd like to think that we can get the job done and hopefully get a couple of goals. Take those chances. And, 1 or 2 goes in early, I reckon that tanking that we spoke about could happen. I'd love to see it the weekend, mate.
Oh, absolutely. As you say, the confidence that would give us going into potentially 4 really tough games, against Stuttgart and against our closest rivals. We need to keep the confidence going. That's the thing. We don't want to have that kind of wee blippy result where we've let ourselves down. If anybody's going to beat us, if Stuttgart beat us because they are the better team, we'll take that. That's not a problem. If we go and we slip up like last night, you wouldn't have said Livi would have taken a point off us if it finished a draw last night, for example. You wouldn't have said, "Oh, that's because they were a better team." We kind of let ourselves down in that a wee bit. So we just need to keep grinding it out, never stop, and that's the thing. The plastic pitch is going to be a worry. We know we've played on it as many times. We've had some really, poor performances on it. That's just not typical of a Celtic team. But yeah, we've got to go in, kind of nice and confident and say, look, we know what we're here. Martin will have them well schooled, just to go out there and see what we can do. And as I say, up the road.
Up the road, 3 points, that'll do me. You know, as I say, I'd love to see a tank, and I can understand that folk are saying it won't happen. This is maybe wishful thinking. I'm trying to be that positivity. I do genuinely believe, though, I'm going to stick my neck out in the line and say Celtic will dish out at least one tank in between now and the end of the season. So I do have that positivity around it. When it comes, where it comes, I don't care, as long as we just keep getting the results. Yeah. But listen, thank you very much. We've just went after 10. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Thanks to every single one of you lovely people out there watching us as well. As we say, we'll get this game coming up round the corner. We'll be back to talk about that come the weekend. We'll have the interviews throughout the week. We'll find out what's happening, the lay of the land with potential injuries, potential players coming back, everything to play for. It was a great night last night, winning it late on in style and a nice wee sickener elsewhere in Lanarkshire. So thank you very much, Stevie, for joining us. Thanks to everybody else. Remember, hit the subscribe button, get yourself involved, get your thumbs up, cost you nothing, support the channel, and we will be back in due course. Take care of yourselves, and as always, hail, hail. See you later.